Fit 40 Radio, episode number 12. I hope the silence wasn't too awkward. This is Fit 40 Radio, a podcast that hopes to inspire you to get moving, do some good, and find lifelong fitness. Over the next year, I'll be participating in 40 events to help support the work that 40 nonprofits are doing to make our communities and world a little better place to live. So, whether you're finding fitness for the first time or getting back into race shape, I hope that I'll highlight an event that might get you fired up enough to put it on your calendar, get training, and help an organization in the process. Hey everybody, it's Brian, and I'm back and up and running after far too long away from the mic. Actually, I read an article the other day, and I think it was on Medium. Anyway, it stated that most podcasts die slow, agonizing deaths after 12 episodes. They just go silent. And I realize that many of you may be thinking that this podcast and the Fit 40 project have sadly suffered the same fate. But what I'm here to tell you is that it hasn't. The podcast is alive and well. Things have just been a little crazy, more so than they were back in February, March, and April. So I found myself wondering, why 12 episodes? What is it about that number that is such a barrier for people to break through? Now, I can't speak for others, but for me personally, it just seems like this 12th episode, like sort of the newness of the experience has started to wear off. And I started to think about it. It may also be closely related to why people stop going to the gym or give up on a new sport after just a few weeks or sessions. Now, we realize that in order to get better and to achieve the results that we want, whether they are fitness or otherwise, it's going to take two things: work and time. One is hard, and the other is in really short supply for many of us. Now, unless we see some sort of result or progress, it is difficult to soldier on and produce content that people may or may not actually be enjoying or consuming. So one thing I've learned with this podcast project is that there is no such thing as an overnight success. If something appears that way, it's only because it just wasn't on your radar until right now. The truth of the matter is that all things that are worth anything take time to do and produce. If something seems like an instant or viral success, it's just because we weren't privy to all the struggle, the late nights, the computer crashes or equipment malfunctions, or hours and hours of editing that it takes to produce a single episode. For me personally, there's been a huge learning curve with this podcast. Part of my delay in producing more episodes was just getting a space set up in my house to make things easier to record. That also meant getting a mixer and some other equipment that I had no idea how to use. Well, I thought I had figured everything out. I bought a mixer that was supposed to have, as one reviewer put it, enough preamp power to make your ears bleed. That should be more than sufficient for what I'm doing, I thought. Well, as it turns out, the Rode microphone that I bought just needs a little more power to really cause significant blood loss from your ears. I only learned this, however, after I recorded a short video that I thought would demonstrate my newly acquired competence in audio production. I thought I had it nailed. I rigged up my studio mic, and I had two of my lapel mics that I use for recording interviews in the field, and I thought it would be great, a side-by-side audio comparison of the microphones that I use, on a weekly basis. I totally nailed the timing, the fading in from one mic to the next. Everything was totally on point. I was sure I was on my way to YouTube influencer status. I posted it and waited for the first comment validating my effort and thanking me for answering that burning question that was on everyone's mind. Which lapel mic should I buy, Brian? Then the first comment posted. Where's the sound? Then the second. I have the volume cranked all the way up and I can just barely hear you. Then another and another. No sound. And then my personal favorite, volume with a question mark at the end. In this moment, I went from being the teacher to the student. Although this experience was totally embarrassing, it was a complete failure. I tried to turn it into something awesome and learn from it. So I reposted the video, not as an authority offering a tutorial, but very simply and humbly asking for help to fix the volume on my video. And it turns out I needed an additional inline amp to give my mic enough power for it to work properly. So lesson learned once again, when in doubt, ask. Don't be afraid to ask someone with more expertise for help. They may actually be able to point you in the right direction and keep everything moving forward. So thank you so much for your patience as I struggle and learn and wade through all of this audio equipment to make this Fit 40 radio project possible. But man, it is hard to believe that my last episode was published on March 30th. April and May have completely evaporated, but I had some really amazing experience in both months that you'll be hearing about soon. So in the meantime, I've also been scheduling events and filling in the calendar for the summer. And I can just tell you, well, you'll see, it's going to be insanely busy. So here's a quick rundown of my calendar so far. Starting out on June 2nd, it's the Coastal Mountains Land Trust 5-miler. June 3rd is a 5K in Thomaston to benefit trekkers, which is a program for kids in their local area. June 10th is the 62-mile Tour de Cure bike ride in Kennebunkport for the American Diabetes Association. And then the big one for June, that year after year after year I say I want to do and I've never have, the trek across Maine for the American Lung Association. It's a 3-day bike ride that covers about 180 miles across the state from the western mountains to the coast. It's less than a month away, and my friend Jeff came through with a loaner bike for me so I can get started getting miles in. And I realized that just recently, actually, that it's been about 4 years since I've ridden any distance on a road bike, or a bike at all for that matter. So I feel like it's going to be a good challenge, and I'm looking forward to getting out on some rides with some friends that I haven't seen in a while for any length of time. Now, that brings us into July, the Moxie Festival 5K. And if you're not from Maine or the Northeast, you may not be familiar with the elixir of the gods known as Moxie, but it was born or forged or discovered here in Maine, and the town of Lisbon throws a festival in its honor every year. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it out to Hood River, Oregon for the Kiteboard for Cancer event, and you'll be hearing more about my kiteboarding experience that I had back in April on an upcoming show. But what I'm in the process of doing is building a wooden Elias surfboard, which is a very traditional board used in Hawaii in the 1800s and early 1900s. And I'm doing that for the Boards of Hope auction that is happening during the Kiteboard for Cancer event. Now I'm building the board, and then my good friend George is going to paint an image that has yet to be determined on the deck. So lately, when I'm not editing audio at night, I'm back at the cabinet shop trying to wrap up the board. So hopefully it'll bring some dollars in for Project Koru, a cancer advocacy and prevention program that also offers some amazing survivorship programs. Then later in July, it's the Blackburn Challenge in Gloucester, a 20-mile open water circumnavigation of Cape Ann. Again, this is one of those events that every summer I say I'm going to do, and every summer I make up some lame excuse as to why I can't make it down for it. Usually it's something lame like work. Then I'm off to Philly for the Podcast Movement 2018. This is my first podcast-specific conference, so I'm hoping to learn a ton to help improve the quality of the show for you, my Team F40, my valued listeners. How can I better serve you and provide engaging and compelling stories week after week? Well, I think that's one of the workshops, so I will let you know when I get back. Then it's the event that started this whole thing off, the Cape Cod Bay Challenge. It was during this event last year that the idea for Fit 40 Radio began to form. This year's route is a 22-mile coastal paddle from Hull to Duxbury, Massachusetts on paddleboards to benefit, as always, an amazing place for kids undergoing cancer treatment in Boston called Christopher's Haven. Then it's August. Now, are you ready for August? I'm going to get things rolling with the Beach to Beacon 10K in Cape Elizabeth. This year's beneficiary is Winter Kids, so I'll be there running side by side, perhaps with some of the same folks I skied with for 24 hours during the Downhill 24 at Sugarloaf. It's the 10K that everyone wants to do, and I'm so psyched that I got to be part of it. I owe a huge thank you to Julie and MT at Winter Kids for making that possible. Then, August 12th, it's the Islesboro Swim Crossing for Life Flight of Maine. Now, it's a 3.1-mile open water swim across Penobscot Bay. And I've got to tell you that this, out of all the events that I've scheduled so far, this is the one that I'm most concerned about. Now, I've paddled that crossing a number of times in my sea kayak, both by myself and when I was guiding groups. but I never thought I could swim that kind of distance. I'm going to really have to be diligent with my training and conditioning for this event. It's way outside of my comfort and conditioning right now, so it's going to be challenging both physically and mentally to grind it out across Penobscot Bay. Then Jude and Maggie and I pack up our tandem sea kayak and head out for our annual family sea kayaking trip. This year it'll benefit the Main Island Trail Association, and we have slowly been adding days out on the island since Maggie did her first trip at 4 years old. Last year, we did 6 days happily, even in some really challenging conditions. So this year, Maggie's old enough and up for trying a full 2 weeks, and we're hoping to paddle from Portland to Bar Harbor. And then September leads off with the McGonagall Triathlon on the 1st. Sign up today before it's sold out. Then it's off to Vermont for Dell's Ride, a mountain bike ride and trail running festival. The following weekend, it's the Josh Billings Triathlon in Lenox, Mass. Then on the 23rd, it's the Ragged Mountain Scuttle Obstacle Course 5K. And I'm working out a possible perk for you, Team F40. We're in the early stages of working out details to have a Fit 40 radio team that would start all together with some special pricing for you. I'll keep you posted as the details get worked out. So in the middle of all this, I still need to be adding miles to get ready for the Cape Cod Marathon at the end of October. Even with the summer that busy, I'm still going to need events to get to 40 by December 27th. So I'm going to need some help. If you know of events that I should add to the calendar for October, November, and December, please, I mean this, send me an email at fit40radio@gmail.com or go over to Facebook in the Team F40 Facebook page. Also, you'll be seeing a lot more activity from me on the Team F40 Facebook page. I've finally given in and acquired an iPhone. Yes, that's right. I was one of the 6 people left on the planet with a flip phone. This was long overdue. I'm looking forward to being able to finally, being able to see those little pile of poo emojis that Dick keeps sending me. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to being able to post photos and videos, hopefully with sound, as I prepare for and do these 30 events or so. So if you want to keep in touch, go over and like the Fit 40 Radio Facebook page, and that way you'll get all the posts and stay in tune with where I am and what I'm doing over the next 5-6 months or so. So that's what my calendar looks like right now. I know there will be a couple of spontaneous Casco Bay paddleboard races that get added to the mix. But I've gone back to work full-time, so I don't have the production time I did when I was laid off this winter. I'm trying to get caught up and wrap up the last couple of winter skiing-related shows that happened at the end of March. So please, bear with me. More shows are in the works, and they'll be posted hopefully soon. I just wanted to take this time to say thanks to all of you that have downloaded and listened to the episodes. It really means a lot to know that people are actually out there listening to this podcast and that you find the Fit 40 project worthy of your time. So today, just to give you an update, there have been over 1,000 downloads to over 16 countries worldwide. That means people as far away from Maine as Japan and New Zealand, so a quick hello to Tokyo, Auckland, and Canterbury, are out there listening. So wherever you're listening in the world, thank you for coming along with me on this crazy, sometimes logistically intense adventure as I try to fit 40 events into 1 year to benefit 40 different nonprofit organizations. So that's all for right now. I'm a little tired just thinking about all of it right at the moment. It's feeling a little overwhelming, but I know we're going to get through it. We're just going to take it one event at a time. So it's time for me to rest, but it's time for you, Team F40, to get moving, do some good, and go out and find lifelong fitness. I'm Brian, and this has just been a quick glimpse of what is about to come from Fit 40 Radio.